Hello YouTube viewers, please like, share, subscribe, and pay attention. Thank you.
There is breaking news tonight, and Special Counsel Robert Mueller's Russia investigation. Jerome Corsi, an associate of Trump ally Roger Stone, confirmed to CNN he's in plea negotiations with Mueller's team, and we're following the political aftershocks after President Trump told reporters he's ready to side with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia over his own CIA's assessment of the killing of Jamal Khashoggi. Tonight, Democrats say they now want to investigate the president's ties to that country. Congressman Ted Deutsch, a member of the Judiciary and Foreign Affairs Committees, is standing by to take our questions, and our correspondents and analysts, they're also standing by with full coverage of the day's top stories. But let's begin with the breaking news in the Russia investigation, and CNN senior national correspondent Alex Marquardt. Alex, what is the latest?
Well, Jim, the fact that Jerome Corsi is working on a plea deal is a real sign that Robert Mueller and his team think that Corsi has something quite significant to share. So it's a big development that could give the Russia probe a crucial missing link in the investigation into the collusion with Russia, specifically linking WikiLeaks and the hacked Democratic emails that they dumped to the Trump campaign. Now, Corsi has not said anything more about his plea negotiations, so we don't know where those talks stand. But this comes after Corsi himself said just last week that he expected to be indicted by Mueller for allegedly lying. Take a listen.
I fully anticipate that in the next few days I will be indicted by Mueller for some form or other of giving false information to the special counsel or to one of the other grand jury, or however they want to do the indictment. But I'm going to be criminally charged.
Now, many people may not have heard of Corsi, but the special counsel's office is very interested in him because of his friendship with Roger Stone and his possible role as an intermediary to WikiLeaks, which, of course, released the hacked emails of the DNC and then the Clinton campaign chairman, John Podesta, in the lead up to the 2016 election. Corsi claims that he came up with a prediction that Podesta's email would be hacked and released right before the election. That theory, he said, he shared with Stone, who then tweeted something to that effect. And then, of course, that prediction turned out to be true. Corsi denies that he has any ties to or sources inside WikiLeaks. Roger Stone also responded to this news of the plea deal on the radio this afternoon and denied also that Corsi told him that the Podesta emails would be stolen and then published.
I'm unaware of any plea bargaining. I have no idea what this is about, other than to say that the assertion that Jerry Corsi knew in advance that John Podesta's emails had been obtained and would be published would be news to me. This idea that Jerry Corsi could implicate me, there's simply no evidence whatsoever.
And Stone also said today that Corsi is under what he called a tremendous amount of pressure, and he is being asked over and over to say things that he does not believe occurred. Jim?
And Alex, how problematic could this be for President Trump? People might say that, well, Jerome Corsi sounds like a small fish in all of this, but this could be problematic.
It could be very problematic. If Corsi admits that he worked with WikiLeaks and coordinated with them on those emails and then gave that information to Stone, that then creates a direct line between the Russian hackers who carried out those hacks and the Trump campaign. And then the question becomes, who on the Trump campaign, who else may have known? Did the president know?
All right, Alex, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Also, tonight, there are plenty of aftershocks in the wake of President Trump's politically charged holiday phone call with U.S. troops, as well as more pushback on his treatment of U.S. intelligence agencies' assessment that the Saudi government is behind the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Let's go to CNN senior White House correspondent Jeff Zeleny, who is covering the president down in Florida. Jeff, the president is in Florida, but that has not stopped his critics from pouncing all over his performance yesterday.
Jim, good evening. The president's repeated embrace of the Saudi Arabia leadership is drawing more fire from world leaders as well as Democrats and Republicans. But even as the president spent hours on his own golf course here in West Palm Beach, Florida, he's getting a new taste of what the new political order in Washington has in store for him next year.
Tonight, the White House could be contending with another investigation, this time over President Trump's cozy relationship with Saudi Arabia.
I will say very strongly that it's a very important ally. And if we go by a certain standard, we won't be able to have allies with almost any country.
After the president contradicted the CIA's assessment that Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman ordered the killing of Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi,
they did not come to a conclusion They have feelings certain ways, but they didn't have the report. And you can ask Mike, they have not concluded. Nobody's concluded. I don't know if anyone's going to be able to conclude that the Crown Prince did it.
Congressman Adam Schiff, incoming chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, is now promising a deep dive, telling the Washington Post, "We will certainly want to examine what the intelligence community knows about the murder." The president is drawing new fire for repeatedly siding with Saudi leaders over the U.S. intelligence community.
I hate the crime. I hate what's done. I hate the cover-up. And I will tell you this, the Crown Prince hates it more than I do.
Schiff said Democrats, after taking control of Congress in January, will explore any potential financial conflicts of interest between Trump and the Saudi kingdom. At the White House this week, the president denying any such ties.
I don't make deals with Saudi Arabia. I don't have money from Saudi Arabia. I have nothing to do with Saudi Arabia. I couldn't care less.
As the president spends the Thanksgiving holiday at his resort and golf course in Florida, he's fixated on immigration, tweeting today, "Republicans and Democrats must come together, finally with a major border security package, which will include funding for the wall." The president even threatening to close the border with Mexico.
If we find that it gets to a level where we are going to lose control or where people are going to start getting hurt, we will close entry into the country for a period of time until we can get it under control.
For the entire border?
The whole border. I mean, the whole border.
Immigration was only one of several issues the president touched on during a Thanksgiving Day call with troops, meant to show support, but instead turning highly political and at times bizarre.
Large numbers of people are forming at our border, and I don't have to even ask you. I know what you want to do. You want to make sure that you know who we're letting in, and we're not letting in anybody, essentially, because we want to be very, very careful. So you're right. You're doing it over there. We're doing it over here.
He overstated the urgency of caravan immigrants heading to the U.S.
We have fencing and walls like very few people have. We've been able to do it rather quickly. Cosentini wire, and so many other things are there now that they didn't have.
That concertina wire, strung by soldiers at the border, illustrating the president's fixation on immigration. He also used the call to rail against some federal judges.
We get a lot of bad court decisions from the Ninth Circuit, which has become a big thorn in our side.
After spending Thanksgiving with his family at Mar-a-Lago, the president was asked what he's thankful for. His answer? Himself.
I've made a tremendous difference in the country. This country is so much stronger now than it was when I took office that you wouldn't believe it.
So that is the mindset of the president heading into this weekend after Thanksgiving, Jim. And the president also, we are told, is considering still making some changes to his cabinet, potentially replacing Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen. The president said he will potentially talk to other likely candidates during his time here. The White House not saying if that has happened, but as the president heads into the second half of his first term in office, there is one thing that's clear. It will be a new political order in Washington. Those comments from Democratic Chairman Adam Schiff, soon-to-be Chairman Adam Schiff, certainly signaling to the president that things will be different come the new year. Jim?
They certainly will be. All right, Jeff Zeleny, thank you very much. There are also new battle lines tonight, a legal fight between House Republicans and former FBI Director James Comey. At issue is whether Comey will answer questions from the House Judiciary Committee behind closed doors. Comey says he's happy to provide answers, but only in public. Let's go to CNN congressional correspondent Sunlen Srifati. She's here. Sunlen, the timing here is quite surprising.
That's right. It essentially is a last-ditch effort by the Republicans on the committee, Jim, essentially trying to take action while they're still in power during these last few weeks of the lame duck session. And everyone on Capitol Hill is just bracing, of course, for the Mueller report to hit. Now, the Republican chairman of the committee, Bob Goodlatte, who has been investigating the FBI's action in the 2016 campaign, he wants James Comey and also former Attorney General Loretta Lynch before his committee on December 3rd and 4th. And most importantly here, he has subpoenaed for them to appear behind closed doors in private. James Comey making it very clear very quickly that he is willing to appear, but only if it is done in public. He's concerned about leaks if he testifies privately, with the potential for what he says being potentially misconstrued. Comey tweeted yesterday, quote, "Happy Thanksgiving. Got a subpoena from House Republicans. I'm still happy to sit in the light and answer answer all questions, but I will resist a closed-door thing because I've seen enough of their selective leaking and distortion. Let's have a hearing and invite everyone to see. And an attorney for Comey says that they will fight the order, potentially in court if need be, and call this a political stunt by Republicans. Now, there has been no response yet from Loretta Lynch, but of course, Jim, this is very likely to potentially go away in January, come when the Democrats take over control.
And we learned today, Sunlen, one of the things that Democrats want to start looking into when they take control of the House is the president's handling of the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. Tell us about that.
That's right. Add this to the likely growing list of investigations for President Trump. Adam Schiff, who of course is the incoming House Intel Committee chair, says he intends to investigate what the intelligence community found about the Khashoggi murder, and of course look at whether Trump misrepresented those findings. And important here, as Jeff Zeleny noted in his piece before this, Schiff says he's going to go broader. He's really going to take a deep dive in the relations between Saudi and the U.S., including in potentially looking into Trump and his personal business dealings with Saudi, if they potentially influence the president's decision. This, of course, just another preview of what's to come for President Trump in the new year, new reality on Capitol.
It's going to be very different for him here in Washington come January. Sunlen, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Joining us now is Democratic Congressman Ted Deutsch of Florida. He's a member of the Judiciary and Foreign Affairs Committees. Congressman, thanks for joining us. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy holidays. I know we want to get into, thank you, and we want to get into the situation with former FBI Director Comey in a moment, but I want to ask you about these subpoenas from Republicans on your committee in just a moment. But let's begin with the news on Roger Stone associate Jerome Corsi, who says he's entered into these plea negotiations with the special counsel. Do you believe Corsi could be, people might think, well, he's kind of a small fish in all of this. Do you think he could be key to this collusion investigation?
Yeah, this could be a really dramatic turn in this case, in this investigation. There's so much information surrounding the Mueller investigation that sometimes it gets hard to keep it all straight. This news about Corsi provides the opportunity, potentially, and we don't know what Mueller is investigating or what he has, but it provides the opportunity to see a line from Russia, who stole the emails, to WikiLeaks, who distributed the emails, WikiLeaks to Corsi and Stone to the president. We don't know. This is why the Mueller investigation is so important. This is why, instead of holding hearings about Hillary Clinton's emails, we ought to be holding a markup on legislation to protect the Mueller investigation. But this is potentially the most significant piece of information in this investigation because of the way that it could connect all of these dots.
And Roger Stone says Jerome Corsi is being pressured to say things he doesn't believe. What does that tell you about the legal jeopardy Roger Stone might be facing? It is odd somewhat to hear Roger Stone commenting on Jerome Corsi and this looming, legal fix that he might be in.
Sure, I don't think there's anyone who's at all surprised by Roger Stone's reaction to this. The decision that he made to go out in front and start vehemently denying based on this information that's now become public, it's just not surprising at all. And it's, I think, further proof that there is real concern about the ability for Robert Mueller to draw that line from the Russians to WikiLeaks, to Corsi and Stone, to the president. That's I think, what's so concerning for Roger Stone, and it's certainly further evidence of why the president has tried so desperately over the past year, and especially since firing Jeff Sessions, to try to shut down the Mueller investigation altogether. We ought to be protecting it. We ought to, on behalf of the American people, make sure that he completes his work so that we get to the bottom of exactly what happened.
And moving on to Jim Comey, you sit on the House Judiciary Committee. Republicans on your committee, as you now know, have subpoenaed the former FBI director and the former Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, to testify behind closed doors. Some Democrats are calling this a political stunt. How do you see it?
Yeah, well, it's a political stunt, and it's a bad one at that. The leadership of the House Judiciary Committee clearly they clearly weren't paying attention to what happened on Election Day. They didn't get the memo. They failed to understand, even after the sweeping indictment against the way that this committee and this administration have handled things these past 2 years, that still they want to conduct hearings in private, focusing on Hillary Clinton so that they can leak information to the press. And by the way, all of this decision to call for these closed-door hearings came immediately after the president said he thought that these hearings should take place. It's all orchestrated, and it's all an attempt to avoid the really important work that the Judiciary Committee ought to be doing, which is to get to the truth about what happened in 2016, to protect the Mueller investigation from any political efforts by the president to sabotage it, and to start conducting the necessary oversight of the administration, which the leadership and the Republican leadership of this committee has failed to do. But rest assured, when we return in January, Democratic leadership under Chairman Nadler will certainly look forward to conducting that oversight of the administration and pursuing all of these leads that have been left out there and left for others to consider because the Republican leadership has shown no interest in pursuing them.
All right, I'm sure it'll be a whole new ball game. All right, Congressman Ted Deutsch, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it.
And still ahead, more on the breaking news. Roger Stone's ally Jerome Corsi telling CNN he's in negotiation over a plea deal with Robert Mueller's team, and a dire new warning about the impact of climate change. But if it's so bad, why did the administration bury it by delaying its release until late afternoon on the Friday after Thanksgiving?